Salutations, ladies, gents, NB folks, and anyone beyond or in between to insert title here. A podcast where I read books. It's pretty much the only common theme. And that is one of the 4 things to keep in mind about this podcast, is that the only common theme here is books. Now, 3 other things you might want to keep in mind about the podcast is that A, it's 16 plus. I have a bit of a sailor's mouth, and I don't intend to control that over this podcast, and some of the books I'll be reading, such as the second book, This Book is Gay by Juno Dawson, aren't exactly for kids. The first book, The Lightning Thief, is absolutely a kid's book, but, well, that's just the first book. The other things to keep in mind about this podcast are I don't know all of these books. I can't provide accurate trigger warnings for all of them because I haven't read all of them. I'm going every other book with one I chose as a reread or a first read, and then one that was sent in by a listener. And so far my listeners are only my family, so it's books my family told me to read, but that's irrelevant. And lastly, have fun. Don't worry about sticking to this whole thing. If you want to just listen to me follow Rick Riordan's books, that's perfectly fine. You can skip all the books in between. This doesn't have a linear story. I'm just reading. The podcasts will follow a different format depending on what kind of book we're reading. Fiction books will have a going in episode where we predict what's going to happen in the book. We read the back. We discuss if I've read it or not. And then they will have chapter by chapter, a PRP, it's 2 R's, format where we predict what we think is going to happen in the chapter, depending on if I've read it. Read the chapter. This is essentially me not getting paid for doing audiobooks. If anyone wants to pay me for doing audiobooks, please do. 3, we're going to recap. What did we just read? And 4, we're going to predict what do we think is going to happen in the next chapter. With every fiction book, we will also have a coming out at the end of it. Oh, here's my coming out. I'm very queer. No, it was a dumb joke. We'll have a coming out where we discuss what happened in the book, what we liked about the book, what we didn't like about the book. And then with fiction books, we will also have a series of adaptations. Like I said, the first book I'm reading is The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. So we will be covering the movie, the Disney Plus series, and the musical. I don't know if any of y'all know that there's a musical of The Lightning Thief, and it's really good. I've seen it. Well, I've listened to the soundtrack. It's really good. And with non-fiction books, we will be following a slightly different way of doing things. We will have our coming in, our going in and our coming out. But for each chapter, we will discuss the issue that the book concerns. Like, This Book is Gay, we'll be discussing queer issues. We'll read the chapter title, discuss what we think it's about, and what we think about it, and then we will read the chapter and then discuss again. Most of these will be YouTube live streams. I know this is just a video, but yeah. I look forward to seeing you all there, and until then, don't close the book on me just yet.